Hey there, members of the Night Crew, and folks who just love horror. Welcome to the Night Crew podcast, the podcast where we get cozy with the creepy, the frightening, and the just plain undead. I'm your host, Brad Ricks. On today's episode, I sat down with author Ross Killey. We talk about his novels, some cryptids, and some good horror movie recommendations. It's time to nerd out and hop into the virtual studio. All right, today in the virtual studio, I'm joined by author Ross Killey. Crap, did I mess that up? Killey?
No, you got it right.
I did get it right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, sweet. And I'm actually not even going to cut that because that's so funny. So, Ross, it's a pleasure having you on. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty good. Just chilling on one of my off days. I work weekends, so just hanging out, you know. Nice. Happy to be here.
Like I said, pleasure to have you on. All right, so I kind of always start off by just getting to know the author a little bit. So tell me a little bit about you. Like how long have you been writing? What was your first book? What made you want to become a writer? All that kind of good stuff.
Well, I've been trying to write for probably 5 years or so, but I've only been published since 2023. So I'm still fairly recently new to the whole being an author thing. I feel like that any author knows that that kind of lasts a few years. It's not like, oh, I've been an author for a year, so I'm not new anymore. No. That's not how the book world works. You're new for a while. But that being said, I got 3 novels out, short story, and then I have a couple more short stories that are going to be coming out pretty soon. So I got, in the 2 years that I've been writing, I got about 7 works published, I guess you could say. So I'm pretty excited about that. But I'm just hoping it continues, just keep going at it.
Yeah. So as fairly new. So you said your first one was in 23. Mine was in 24. So we're right there together. My debut novel, as of this recording, which is on the 14th of July, my debut novel came out 2 days ago. It's your birthday. So
nice.
Yeah. Which also was with Bainham Books.
Yes.
It was Unveiling Nightmares at the time that I published. But that was
Me too.
Yeah. And so you've done all of yours through Bainham Books, right?
Well, so actually, no. So my first one here, Full Moon Highway, is through Raventail. Have you heard of them?
Yep.
Okay, so I only have one through them. And I wrote it as a novella. It's a short. I know the listeners can't see, but it's a very short book. It was shorter than this in my head, but they up the font a little bit. They're let's stretch an 80-page book to 120. That's fine. I don't care. It's cool. But so they picked that up in 23. That was my first one. And then yes, Unveiling Nightmares, as they were called before, stuck to a monster there. Which, that's a thicker book. But both werewolf novels, Stuck to a Monster, for you listeners, is a horror comedy, conjoined twins, where one of them gets scratched by a werewolf, but only one half of them turns. So the other brother is stuck along for the ride, as I put it.
Interesting.
Yes, it was such a fun book to write. My third book, which just came out last month. Yes, last month. Nightmare Jungle is actually a self-published zombie book. Takes place in Vietnam. But yeah, that Nightmare Jungle is actually the first book I ever wrote. I started that sucker back in, I swear, it had to be 2000. Legitimately probably 2013, 14. And it was just at the time, that's when I was in my early 20s, and I was like, oh, I want to try writing something. But at the time, it was just a fun thing I was doing on the side. It wasn't super serious. So I'd work on it for it was a couple of years, and I would not touch it for months at a time, months. And then finally finished it. And then in the publishing world, I listened to enough podcasts and enough authors that I knew zombie fiction was not the cool thing. Publishers were not looking to publish that. So I never submitted it. I just kept it on the back burner. And then it was just last year that I was like, okay, I'm going to, I got Stuck to a Monster and Full Moon Highway published. So I was like, oh, this could be a reality now, but let me save that for like a self-publishing project. And so I went back and edited the crap out of it. I cut like 90 pages out of that sucker and rewrote whole chapters until I got it to, like the way I loved it. So, and now it's here. So,
well, but that kind of shows, from a writing standpoint, how much you may have grown as a writer from the first time you wrote it to, after writing a couple others, going back and re-looking at it.
Totally. So, I mean, yeah, when I opened that Word document back up for the first time in like a couple years and I reread it, I was looking at whole passages of just like endless, like not dialogue, but just descriptions. And I was like, why did I write so much crap? Like, because it takes place in Vietnam, so I'm like describing so much trees and vegetation and crap, and I'm like, delete, rewrite.
Everybody has seen Apocalypse Now. We know what Vietnam looks like.
Yeah, I was like, nah. I was like, get rid of this. So yeah, cut like 90 pages out of that sucker. It reads so much better.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience. So The Night Crew was the first book that was picked up by a publisher for me. But by the time it kind of went from one publisher to another. And then so Fear Not the Dead came out, it actually became my debut. Well, by the time we got around to editing Night Crew, I was seeing some of the stuff they were sending me and I was like, am I still doing this? And so I went back to some other, I went back to like Fear Not the Dead. I went back to Hell with Hallmark and I was like, I'm actually not doing this anymore. So it was still there in Night Crew, which was my first one. But in subsequent books, like my style has grown and it wasn't the same. So yeah, it's interesting when you go back and look at some of your older stuff like that.
For sure.
So another thing that you mentioned that's kind of funny is when you talk about, the length of the book and like with your first one, and you said that, it's about this, but then you change the font. It's, one of the things when, people are like, well, how long is your book? Well, all of us, if you're just a reader, then, no offense, readers, we love you. When I say if you're just a reader, but if you're a reader, you're like, oh yeah, it's a 250 page, it's a 300 page. But as a writer, we're like, it's 70,000 words because who knows how many pages that could be.
Yeah, that could be.
That's not determined till formatting.
Yeah, I've had many of people like kind of just look through my books, and I've had people who read some of my stuff tell me like, oh, I like that it had bigger font. And then I had people tell me like, oh man, the bigger font, like that made the book thicker. Like you could probably bring that down, right? And I was like, well, I could suggest it to the publisher, but it's not always necessarily up to me.
Right.
But I like just my personal taste, like I could stand smaller text. I'm used to reading books with smaller text, so I'm fine either way.
All right. So, where do you find your inspiration?
So, well, I mean, gosh, I read a lot of different horror, different genres of horror, but I would say some big names for me personally. I'm looking at my bookshelf, by the way, for you. Oh, no, none of you can actually see me, but I love me some like Dan Simmons, some Joe Lansdale, even though Joe Lansdale, he's not strictly horror at all. Like he dabbles in everything.
Yes, he does.
But like just his voice and his work and like the way he can just like naturally write dialogue and stuff like that. Like that's something to aspire to. Yeah, those are some two big ones for me though. I'm sure I could like just keep naming off people off my shelf, but then we'll be here forever. But Dan Simmons, for example, Summer of Night. I don't know if you're familiar with this book. This is my favorite horror book of all time. So it's a coming of age tale. A lot of people compare it to It. It does take place, I 1960. It takes place in 1960. It's about a bunch of mostly boys. There's some girl characters in there growing up, small town Illinois, and there's a supernatural element to it. So a lot of people compare it to it, even though the monsters in it are like completely different. But that's my favorite book. That book is so much fun. The way it's written, it's creepy. So he's a big inspiration, Dan Simmons.
Nice. So what do you find is the most difficult part of writing a book?
That's a good question. For me right now, just where I'm at in life right now, having like a 2-year-old running around, I work.
I'm gonna jump ahead and say your answer is gonna be time.
Yes.
As soon as you said you have a 2-year-old running around,
well,
I'm like,
we'll say that's 50% of the problem. But the thing is, like, some of that problem lies with me too. So like, I work full time on the weekends. I work 12-hour shifts on the weekends, but I have Monday through Thursday off. I'm there with the kid though, while the wife is working. So, time is an issue, but I could probably use my time a little bit more wisely if I try to. I'm a slow writer. So let's say that I'm always working on something. I'm working on a book now, but like I'm an outliner. So like if I'm writing a chapter, I'm actively writing, and then I come across a point where I'm like, oh shoot, how do I want this scene to end? I'll minimize the book and open up my outline document, and I'll sit there and just like gaze over it, come up with new ideas. That's the thing. It's like I almost come up with too many ideas, and then I can't land on one. And my brain, the way my brain works is like, I don't want to start writing until I know exactly how like the chapter plays out, even if it's to my detriment. Like I'm like, man, I didn't get shit done writing today. Like I outlined and plotted a lot. So it's not that I'm not doing anything, but it's like, as far as actual word count, like I got 400 words today. It's like, so I'm kind of my worst enemy almost on that front.
Well, I mean, I've seen so many times people are like, yeah, I mean, because a lot of things talk about, 1,000 words or 1,500 words, or, but even if it's 20 words or, 100 words, it's still progress.
That's true.
And even if you're looking at your outline and you're just kind of chipping away at it and that's still, although it may not look like progress necessarily, it is still, you're kind of fine tuning that marble and, getting what you want on there.
And that's what I tell myself. That's how I get through the day. Like if I have one of those kind of like downer days where I'm just like, Ross, you didn't get anything done today. I'm like, well, wait, you outlined a whole new chapter. Like that's not nothing. So for all you writers out there or aspiring writers, like you just said, don't hold yourself too much to the word count. I see people on Facebook like, I got 10,000 words done today, and I'm like, I don't know how you ever do that. Like I don't ever get 10,000 words. Are you kidding me? I'll be happy. Like if I hit 2,000 in a day, I will start doing backflips or something.
Yeah, I think the most I ever did. So I was getting close to writing, to finishing up actually the second book of the Night Crew series, which comes out in November. So I was getting close to finishing it. Like I saw the end, and my son was having a camp out, and so I was like, well, while you're on the camp out, I'm booking a hotel, and I just locked myself into a hotel room for the entire weekend. I was in a hotel room. I did nothing but DoorDash, and I had a nice bottle of what did I have? Buffalo Trace. And
okay, nice, good choice.
Yeah, so I had a nice bottle of Buffalo Trace, and it was that, and like I said, DoorDash, and locked in a hotel room, and I ended up getting like 6,000 something words. And
that's a good day.
Yeah, it was. But from that Friday to Sunday when I picked him up, it was right around 8,000 or so total through that weekend, and I was like, that was my limit. I was so tapped out. I was like, but I wrote, I got to the end. I put the conclusion on it. I was like, so that was exciting.
That's the thing. Like if someone out there listening, like if you've never wrote a whole book or even like a novella length work, like when you get towards the end, like you really start feeling it, and that's all. You're just like, oh yeah, I'm going to finish it now, and you just keep going, and going.
End.
Yeah,
yep, that light at the end of the tunnel there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, all right. So, when do you find time to write? Are you a morning writer? Are you an evening, late night writer? What's your schedule look like?
Okay, well, so I typically save my writing for the Monday through Thursday. When I'm at home with the kid. Just with my sleep schedule, like I'm usually awake before the kid is. So if I'm up for it, I could do some early writing, and then that way, because I have so many other hobbies. That's another thing that's a detriment to myself. I mean, obviously I read. I'm a writer, so I read. I'm a big movie buff. I do a bunch of other crap. So I tell myself, like, I need to get the writing done first, because if I tell myself, oh, I'll do it in the evening, my dumb ass won't, because I'll get preoccupied with doing something else, and then I'll say, I'll do it first thing tomorrow. And then I'll be like, no, I won't. So sometimes I will try to get it done early in the day.
Yeah, that whole procrastinating thing. Usually by the end, if I set out and say, this evening, I think I'm gonna do some writing, then I usually have set myself up to have an horribly busy day without even realize. It's like I called it, like I jinxed myself the moment I do that.
Yeah.
All right, so let me see. I have some other questions that I have here. So we talked about some of your literary influences, so like Joe Lansdale and Dan Simmons. But from an like, where do you? I don't want to say where do you get your ideas, because it's not like there's a bag of ideas you just kind of pull stuff out of.
Oh, I got a bag.
you got a bag of ideas. You have the magic bag. Hand it over. So where do you, when you have or I guess where is that magic, idea tree? Like where do you find them?
That's a good question. So, well, I'll give you, it doesn't always work this way, but I'll give you an example. So like the first book, Full Moon Highway, that I did is just, I'm not trying to dog on myself, but it's just kind of like a basic werewolf tale. It's just about a guy. He's a road tech, and there's a werewolf stalking a highway during a crazy winter storm. And it's just kind of, I don't want to say B movie as in that, like it's bad, but it's just a normal kind of typical werewolf book. But then, so I wrote that. And then while it was in talks to getting published with like Raven Tail, I watch a lot of YouTube, like on my break time at work. One of those like recommended videos popped up. It was like of the conjoined sisters that had like that reality show. I can't remember their names. They had a couple reality shows. Yeah. So like that popped up in my related on YouTube, and I watched it. I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then just randomly in my head, since I had just written this werewolf novel, I was like, what if a conjoined person's got like scratched or bit by a werewolf? Like, would they both turn? Would one half of them turn? And then instantly, I remember I was at work on break watching this, and that idea popped in my head, and I just went ding, 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 ding. And I was like, I keep a notebook with me, a little notebook. So I work security. And so I keep a little notebook with me for the job, but most of it's just like ideas, right, for writing. Yeah. And I just started writing ideas that evening at work. I worked nights at the time, and I was just like, idea. And like within that week, I had created a outline document, and I was outlining chapters and stuff. And that's what it turned into. It turned into my second book, my first full length book, Stuck to a Monster. But yeah, they kind of just come randomly. I do love, short stories, for example. I do like prompts for short stories. It kind of helps me keep on track a little bit. But as far as like something, I have notebooks full of ideas. And obviously I think every author could probably relate to this, that you will never be alive long enough to write full-length novels on every single one of your ideas. So every time you're coming up to a new book or a new project, you're like, I need to pick what I think is going to be the best one, because like I need to focus on that, because I'm not going to get around to writing all of them. There's no way. Right. All right. So of the books that you've written, what would you say is your favorite? So I would say Stuck to a Monster. obviously the one I'm pushing for right now is like my new book, Nightmare Jungle, just because it came out. But as far as the most fun so far, Stuck to a Monster, that was so fun to write with it being a horror comedy because nothing was it was no holds barred. You know what I mean? It's like, let's call it like a NC-17 rated book, if you will. You know what I mean? Like, it was so much fun. No idea was really like off the table in that book. And it was written by a horror fan for the horror fan. That's how I tell people, you know, they say like, oh, like what kind of comedy, what style, you know, and that's very like subjective. So I tell people, you know, like by a horror fan for the horror fan. So
nice.
Yeah, it was a blast to write. Awesome.
So outside of writing, what are some of your hobbies?
Oh, well, I had mentioned I'm a huge movie buff. And thanks to my dad, he was a huge movie buff. He had me watching movies at a very young age. I mean, I think I probably watched Dawn of the Dead when I was like, he probably showed it to me when I was like 6 or 7, scared the shit out of me.
Love Dawn of the Dead. It's one of the best ones.
That's probably around the same time I saw like Animal House too. Like I was probably like 7 or something like that. So like, I don't know if my mom knows that, but you know, those were the kind of movies we were watching. And like, I was watching RoboCop. RoboCop's one of my favorite movies of all time. Very violent movie, Paul Verhoeven. Mm-hmm. He introduced me to like a bunch of Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. Like he knew I liked RoboCop. So he get in like Terminator. So he gave me like a Universal Soldier. He goes, I think you might like this. And I didn't know who Jean-Claude Van Damme was. I remember I watched that movie and we just went to the video rental store and I was like, where's the Jean-Claude Van Damme section? I started watching all his movies and everything. And yeah, but so
and kickboxing.
Oh, 100%. Yes. Yeah. So Bloodsport versus kickboxer. I'm a Bloodsport guy. That's my favorite. No offense to you kickboxer fans out there, but yeah, but no. So reading, movies. I used to game a lot more than I do. I can't so much anymore with like a kid and stuff. I used to game a lot. I used to play airsoft a lot back in the day with all my buddies. It's kind of like paintball, but with BBs. I was huge into that.
There's actually a course, a field, or whatever I guess you would call it. That's not too far from me that I've been to a time or two. So yeah, airsoft it's fun.
It is. Yeah. It gets kind of addicting. I got into it like right after high school. Oh yeah. And I was, well, funny enough, I'm a Warhammer fan, like Warhammer and fantasy and Warhammer 40K. Now, funny thing, I never actually played the tabletop game, but I fell in love with the lore. I have a closet full of books, Warhammer and Warhammer 40K books I'm looking at right now. But I told myself, man, these models are so cool though. So I started buying and painting the models. And I got decent at painting them. I'm no pro or anything. But literally I started painting them and then I sold Full Moon Highway, my first book. And then when I sold that, I was like, oh man, I need to like actually like take this writing thing seriously. So I have not painted in a couple years. I miss it, but yeah, I haven't done it in a couple years. I simply don't have time. It's one of those things where, you know, you become adult, you become a parent, and sometimes you gotta cut things out. You know, some hobbies got to go.
So true. It's sad, but so true.
It is sad. Yeah.
But as I said, you have a 2-year-old, so you got a good little span there of you know, having a little one in the house. All mine are teenagers. So I'm, you know, my oldest son, he actually just moved out like a week or so ago. So cause he's heading off to college. So I'm starting to push them out. So
you're like, what hobbies can I pick up?
I know. I'm like, good. It's like suddenly I started having travel money, and
oh, hell yeah.
So I'm liking the idea of being on the other side of the spectrum, because I remember the first part of the spectrum. You know, when you know, people talk about, yeah, you know, the the milestones of when they can start walking and talking and all that.
Yep.
I was like, no, I want the milestones of when does not everything in my house have to sing the alphabet? When can everybody get their own drink? When am I not wiping butts anymore? I was like, those are my milestones.
My kid right now, when she cries, she learned the word wipe, like wipe your face. But when she cries now, she's like, wipe. I cry, wipe. And she wants me to wipe her tears, and she will instantly stop crying when I wipe them. So that's more incentive for me to get off my ass and wipe them, so I don't have to listen to her cry.
So whatever it takes.
Yeah, she go wipe eyes, and I'm like, okay, stop crying.
All right, let's see. So I started the Night Crew podcast as a spinoff to my own series, The Night Crew, which is about a team of monster hunters. All of my, scripted episodes are deep dives into some kind of a creature. So I may be done with the vampire series by the time this episode comes out, but at the time of recording, I am still doing some vampire stuff. So with that being said, of course, I said one of the caveats of coming on the podcast is you got to talk about your favorite monster. So Ross, tell us, what is your favorite horror creature?
All right. Well, so what I'm bringing to the table today is your Sasquatch or your Bigfoot or your Yeti, whatever you want to call it. It's got 100,000 different names. So that's what I'm bringing to the table today, because I believe they're real.
Are they on the East Coast or the West Coast?
They're both everywhere.
They're everywhere?
I feel like you knew the answer to that. You just wanted to
say. So I've traveled up into like Oregon, and I know that in Oregon, a lot of the like little souvenir trinkety stuff that you get like has a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch on it.
100%.
And so like they very much are like, nope, he's here. But I've also heard tales of like in the Appalachian Mountains and and I'm sure it's Appalachia. I know I'm don't get all mad at me if you're
canceled now. You're canceled. You're done.
I know, I've said it wrong. I'm in Texas. We call it Appalachia. No. Yeah, so I've heard of tales of them being in the on the right side and on the left side of the country. So you say all over, huh?
I do, yes. So I really do. I do believe in them. For all you yucksters out there, if you're laughing at me, that's fine. It's okay. But only the the Sasquatch, or like any of the cryptozoology kind of those kind of the hidden monster kind of
hidden creature stuff. Yeah, the others.
So I believe in Sasquatch for sure. As far as other like cryptids and stuff,
like the Mothman and the some of
that Mothman stuff, that's some like, that's crazier stuff. And I don't mean crazy as in like you're crazy if you believe in it. I just mean like, because I've watched documentaries and read up on it, and it's just like the history behind that gets so, it's like, is it just a Mothman, or some people think it was an angel, some people think it was an angel of death. There's too much to talk about that subject, but that is a very interesting story. I don't know how many other cryptids I really believe in. Like Loch Ness is cool, right? And whether or not it was ever real, like I guess it could have been at one point. It could have been some relic and aquatic creature, could still be, or it could be dead. I don't know. A lot of people think it was real and it's since dead, but I don't live over there, so I don't know. But people talk about like the dog man and stuff, and I've heard crazy. I listen to so many podcasts about Sasquatch and stuff, so the dog man gets brought up a lot. I don't know about that one, but some of the stories are pretty wild, and they seem like credible. Some of the people seem very credible when they talk about it, but I haven't run into it. I don't think I want to run into that one. Maybe some of the other ones, not that one. That one seems a little crazy. But
now, so what part of the country do you live in?
I live in Indiana.
Indiana. Okay. Mm-hmm. So is Sasquatch up in Indiana?
So, not in the area I live in. I live in like central Indiana, and it's just like cornfields and neighborhoods. There's nowhere to hide where I'm at. But southern Indiana is very much like Kentucky, very hilly, woodsy. I actually had a weird experience when I was down there back in I think it was 2016, that I kind of think may have been like a Bigfoot related thing. Me and a bunch of friends rented like a cabin house down there for a weekend, and we went hiking into like a very large patch of woods down there. But long story short, we were in the middle of the woods, and there was no wind. The trees weren't moving, and there was a hill in front of us, and right on the other side of this hill, this tree started shaking back and forth. And I mean, we're talking like a 60, 70 foot tall tree, and it started whipping back and forth, almost like you see like if you ever watch like gorilla videos, they'll shake a tree like an intimidation tactic. And we could only, because this hill was in our way, we could only see the top half of the tree. We couldn't see the bottom half, so we couldn't see what was shaking it. In reality, we were probably only like 30 yards from this tree. So like we were close. If we had stepped to our right, like 40 feet, we would have been in full view of whatever was shaking this thing. And but we were too chicken shit to step. I was with two other guys, and I had already at the time been listening to like a shit ton of Bigfoot podcasts and whatnot. But I think the guys I was with, they're not like that's not on their radar, right? We were just walking in the woods, and that tree started whipping back and forth, and there was no like noise to go with it. It was just whipping. No other tree was moving, and I said, "Do you guys want to go see what that is?" And my buddy, who was in front of me, and I would say he's probably more ballsy than me too. He just turned around and walked past me back the way we came. And he said, "No," just like that, "No." And so I turned around. I was like, "I'm not gonna stay here by myself." So I turned around and we left. We left the woods. So like, if that was some sort of intimidation tactic, it freaking worked. We left without question. Without question, we left.
I could think of like if it was my friends and I, like we would all just be standing in one place going, "No, you do it. No, you go. No, you go." And just everybody just elbowing each other. "You go, you go." And yeah, all of us, being chicken shits as well. We were like, we would sit there and do that for 3 hours, being like, "No, you, no, you."
I regret not looking to this day. I regret not stepping like 30 to 40 feet to my right just to see, because they technically wouldn't even have been closer. We just would have been like more in view,
just in better view. Yeah.
And I regret not doing it to this day. But at the same time, I was like, "Yeah, I'm good. I don't think." I was like, something on the other side of that hill doesn't want us here. Like, so I wasn't gonna test it.
And it's always, the imagination always will be so much worse than what you can, what may actually be there. So, what you could, not looking and, be thinking about what could have been there is probably so much worse than what probably actually was. But, so
Totally.
That's a good story though. All right. So, outside of like, Harry and the Hendersons, what's some good Bigfoot movie? Being a movie buff, I'm sure you know some Harry and the Hendersons.
I do. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I got a couple good movies off the top of my head because there's a lot of bad ones, man. You listeners out there, do your research before you hit play on that Bigfoot movie because you're going to run into some real crap out there. But
I remember back in the day when the Sci-Fi Channel used to actually do their B movies and kind of stuff, that Saturday afternoon movies.
So I'm glad you said that, because there is one that's a Sci-Fi Channel original that I actually think is really so much fun. It's called Abominable. Have you seen that one? Where the dude,
I've seen that one.
It's Rear Window with a Bigfoot. The dude is in a wheelchair.
I have seen that one.
Yes, I love that freaking movie. Dude, people make fun of that movie. For a Sci-Fi Channel movie that came out I remember I watched the premiere when I was in high school. That was probably like 2006. That is a fun freaking movie for you listeners out there. That wasn't on my list. It is now. That's a good one. The ones I had for you listeners, though, Exists. There's one called Exists, and it's both movies that I brought to the table tonight are found footage movies. And this first one, Exists, is by the director who did Blair Witch Project. So And that one is actually, you can only find it on DVD. There's not been like a Blu-ray or anything, but it's takes place in Texas, by the way. You said you were Texas, right?
Yes. Yeah, I live in Central Texas.
Yeah, okay. So I think this movie takes place in Eastern Texas, where it's like more wooded, right?
Yeah, there's a lot more woods in East Texas.
Yeah. So you should check out this movie. It's very fun. It's not like a super serious take on the subject per se, but it's super fun, found footage. It's just about a group of friends. They go to like their uncle's cabin in the woods. They accidentally hit something on their way there at night. And you find out it may or may not have, this is not a spoiler. They hit like Sasquatch's kid, and Sasquatch's Bigfoot is pissed. So the rest of the movie, he's like picking them off, and they all have GoPros attached to their head and stuff. So you see it. It's just a very fun movie. Second movie, like I said, another found footage, is called Willow Creek. Have you heard of this?
I've not heard of Willow Creek.
So Willow Creek is a real place. It's in California, and that is the town. I can't remember if it's the town where the Patterson-Gimlin footage is shot, like that old 60s footage of Bigfoot walking.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if it's the town where they filmed it or like the town next to it, but it is called Willow Creek. Named off the town. Found footage. It's a guy and girlfriend. They go camping, and it's supposed to take place like in the world where Bigfoot exists. So he knows about the Patterson-Gimlin footage. He's all about, that's why he picked that camping spot, and his girlfriend's just kind of there along for the ride. But the movie, you never see Bigfoot in this movie, and there is like, it's a quick movie. It's only like 80 something minutes, but there was like a 20-minute no cut scene where they're in their tent, camping at the spot where that footage was filmed. And like shit is going on outside of the tent. And it's such a gradual buildup. Cause at first it's just like, oh, it's animal noises, it's birds, it's crickets. But then like 20 minutes build up, and it is like the freakiest shit. And it's a very good movie. If anyone out there is interested in like cryptid stuff and you have not seen this movie Willow Creek, check that one out for sure for some Bigfoot goodness.
Yeah, I'm gonna have you send me both of those in an email, because I'll include them in the show notes for sure.
Will do.
So yeah, so everybody can go look in the show notes and be able to check those out. I'm a fan of some good found footage stuff, and you said the one was by the person who did Blair Witch. I love me some Blair Witch. The first one was just so wonderful.
Oh God, I remember watching that, because what was that? Was that like 96, 97 when that came out?
Yeah, something right around then. I remember I went to go see it with some buddies of mine, and we got done, and a friend of mine was like, "Man, that wasn't scary. That wasn't nothing."
Oh,
I was like, "Oh, you really want to go camping?" And he was like, "No."
So
like, hell
yeah,
no,
so
I
I was born in 90, so like I was 6 or 7 when I watched that, because I remember my sister, she's older than me, she rented it from the store, so she popped that VHS in, and I watched it with her. Scared the shit out of me. Scared me so bad.
Yeah, like I said, we went to go see it in the movies, and then I was like, "You want to go camping?" Like, no, I don't want to go camping. I'm like, ha ha.
Yeah, it was effective. Don't lie.
Yeah, right. So we won't talk about the second one. The second one is not near as good, but the first one. The first one's classic.
Book of Shadows.
You even remember the tagline to it, or the second part, or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I could not have told you that.
I told you I'm a movie buff.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's see. So, all right. Yeah. So Sasquatch. So I'm going to start making a list of some of these, and I may at some point post these on my website or something, and see what the different who all picks. Especially as I get more and more author interviews and things start duplicating, and people start saying some of the same stuff, and so I may have to start making a little tally board on the website to say here's what everybody likes.
Oh yeah,
but I start doing that, and then people are going to start getting creative, and they're going to be like, I like this random monster that this one tribe in North Dakota knew about. People are trying to get obscure.
Yeah.
But no, Sasquatch and the Bigfoot, the Yeti. So are the Yeti and the Bigfoot the same thing, or are those two different kinds of cryptids?
So I mean, in reality, no one can answer that, right? Like, no one's got one they're studying. Well, not that I know of, but anyway, I mean, I would say they would.
The government has.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to say they would have to be closely related, right? Like, if we're being realistic, but just the reality that they're, let's say, the Indiana Sasquatch is so far away from like the Chinese Sasquatch on like in their mountains over there. Like, it's it's not going to be 100% the same thing, but
right.
They're adapted to different environments. But I would most continents and countries have their version of a Bigfoot, or even some of them, like closer to the equator, have smaller versions, because when you get closer to the equator, like the wildlife doesn't grow as big, so they have a lot of shorter hairy cryptids that they talk about in those areas. But yes, I wouldn't say they're the same, but I mean, very similar. Yeah.
So talking cryptids into a microphone, I kind of feel a little bit like George Norrie, and this is Coast to Coast AM. So for all you who don't know, so that was a radio show that happened at late night where they would talk about this kind of stuff. So, all right. So with that, I guess, so where can my listeners, where can they find you? Where can they find your books? Where can they learn more about you?
So I am mostly active on like Instagram and Facebook. I'm trying to do the whole TikTok thing. I'm not good at it. I try to post the videos, but I mean, like, who understands that algorithm crap, dude? I'll post some random video that has like Blue's Clues music on it or something, and it'll get 1,000 views, and then I'll post something like writing related, and it'll only get like 20 views. So, but like I said, I digress. Instagram and Facebook is where I am most active. What was the second part of that question? I forget. Well,
just where can we learn more about you? Where can we find your books? That kind of stuff.
Okay, so yeah, Instagram, Facebook. I don't have a website yet. I would like to create a website for myself where I could like sell books directly, and like I know a lot of authors are doing that. They sell their books directly because some people don't like Amazon, and that way also you can sign your books, you can personalize them. I would love to start doing that. But like I said, I just haven't done that yet because I'm still kind of a newish author. I've only been around for 2 years, but I do have 3 more works come out in anthologies in the next year. I've got a story. Actually, it's a cryptid story, topical. Nice. It's coming out with Sinister Smile Press in November is the goal. Their cryptid anthology. Not a Bigfoot story though. I actually created a cryptid for this one. Some other authors chose already known cryptids, which is cool. Nothing wrong with that. I created one. And then I have a story coming out in a book called Duplicated. It's an anthology all about twins and or duplicates. My story is a side story from Stuck to a Monster. So it's going to feature the conjoined werewolf brothers. And then the other short story, I don't think I can talk about yet. It hasn't been like formally announced yet, so I don't want to get kicked out or anything. So, but my point is, I've got more work coming. Find me on Instagram, Facebook until I announce some website or something like that when I get cooler. So, yeah.
Well, and I'll make sure and get have you send me your links so I can put those in the show notes as well. So then people have the links of where they can find you. So we'll have all that stuff in there so people can learn more about you, find your books, and yeah. So, well, with that, it was a pleasure having you on. I really appreciate you, kind of hanging out with me here for a little while. And, definitely some good fun, chat about some cryptids and, Sasquatch and Bigfoot and all that good stuff. So,
oh yeah.
But yeah, so I appreciate having you on. Any parting words of wisdom?
Oh, I do have 2 book recommendations for anyone who actually wants to like read up on some of this Bigfoot stuff. Real quick, Jeff Strand did a book. I think he won an award for this one. It's called Dweller for you listeners out there. Have you heard of this one, Brad?
I have heard of that one. Yes. I haven't read it, but I've heard of it. So
this is such a fun book. So it's just the main character. It starts off as a boy, and he finds Bigfoot in the woods. It takes place in Ohio, but the whole book takes place from when he finds it as a kid to when he's like an old man. And he actually, it is such a fun book. And this book almost had me in tears at the end of it, like in a sad way. But, and I don't cry easily, so that's saying something. So like if this book almost had me in tears, like I loved this book. It was so much fun. Book number 2 real quick. The Mountain King by Rick Hodala. Now, sadly, I think Rick passed away like in the past few years. But if you guys can find The Mountain King, is a very fun Bigfoot book. They don't call it Bigfoot in this book, but that's essentially what they are. This guy goes up. He lost his buddy they were mountain climbing, and his buddy got lost, and no one could find him. And so he goes up there though, and there's like a clan of Bigfoot-like creatures that inhabit this mountain. And there's a scene in this book that there's a death scene. I will not spoil who dies, but there's a death scene in this book that is so out of left field. And the way Rick Hodala describes it just knocked me on my ass, and is like, I've never read something so shocking before. Not necessarily in like the gory sense, but just like who dies and how they die and how abruptly they die. It's shocking. And I've read many a review from this book that other people say the same thing. They're just like, oh man, this book was like, it was okay. But then I got to this scene and it was like, holy shit. So like, yeah. So for you listeners, check out Dweller by Jeff Strand and The Mountain King by Rick Hodala.
Gotcha. Yeah. Good recommendations there. All right. Well, again, it was a pleasure having you on. And like I said, I'll put the links in the show notes so that people can find you and, go and pick up some of your books and, read and review and all that kind of good stuff that, we all beg people to do.
Yes. I'll get on my knees. No, it was awesome being here. Thank you for having me.
All right. No problem. I'll chat with you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Well, that's it for the Night Crew podcast and my conversation with Ross Killey. I have links to where you can find Ross in the show notes. Follow him on all the socials and definitely pick up his books. So if you had a good time, make sure to follow the show. Please share it with a friend and leave a rating. Hopefully 5 stars. If you want updates on my writing, you can follow me on Facebook or TikTok at Bradrick's Author. You can find copies of my novels wherever you like to buy books. But if you hop over to my website, bradricks.com, you can purchase signed copies of my novels. While there, also sign up for my newsletter. Remember, the Night Crew Book 1 is currently available, and Book 2 comes out in November. I'm Brad Ricks, reminding you to stay out of graveyards after dark, question people who don't show up in mirrors, and try not to let your conjoined twin turn into a werewolf. Until next time, keep your curtains drawn, your sense of humor sharp, and your blood inside your body. Thanks for listening.